It's me again. So I thought I would share my story of my little boy and how God, the universe again, whoever you identify with as your source of higher power, really brings us blessings and brings us the things that we most desire in life. When my husband now and I got married, I was very clear to him that I was unable to have any more children physically, and he at the time said, I love your kids, but I don't want any more kids of I don't want any kids of my own. But that all changed. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law had a baby, and he saw the baby, and I just saw it written all over his face. And I said, "You want a baby now, don't you?" He's like, "Yeah, I kind of do." So we talked about what it would mean for us to even think about trying to get pregnant, the cost, the failure rate, what that would really look like for us, and not being in a financial situation to really do that. So we just kind of said, if it's going to happen someday, it's going to happen. And we just kind of left it out there to the universe to say, whatever happens, happens. We went about our lives. Years passed by, and I was starting to think it was never going to happen. We were never going to get them. There was never going to be the perfect time. We were never going to have the right amount of money to do this, and we really never thought about adoption as an option. We just didn't think that we would qualify, and we've heard horror stories of people just going years and years and years through the process, and it just didn't seem like any of the possibilities that were out there were really ever going to happen for us. So back in 2000, I think it was around 2007, I went to work, and my sister-in-law worked with me at the time. We worked different shifts, but it was a change of shift, and I saw her, and she was really upset. And I was like, "What's the matter?" And she's like, "My daughter's pregnant." And when she said that, the only thing I could hear in my brain was, "I really want to adopt that baby." And, I just listened to her vent about, her daughter being pregnant. Her daughter was a young adult, but her daughter had some physical and mental health challenges, which really was going to make it difficult for her to be a parent. And her mom knew that. And her mom knew that she just wasn't able to raise another child herself. But they were going to talk about it and figure out what they needed to do. So I go home, and I say to my husband, "Hey, guess who's pregnant?" And I tell him, and he says, "We should adopt that baby." I don't say anything because obviously that was my initial reaction. And that wasn't even a conversation, like, is this even a possibility? So I just let it go. I don't say anything. And I don't know, some time passed because of the schedule, the way it worked out. I really didn't see my sister-in-law every day. It probably had been a good week before I saw her again. And I saw her, and I said, "Hey, how are things going? What's going on with your daughter?" And she's like, "Well, we sat down and we talked about it, and we just decided that she needs to give the baby up for adoption." And I said to her, "Please don't get offended when I say this, but I have to tell you, when you told me that she was pregnant, the only thing I could hear screaming in my brain is, I want to adopt that baby." Mind you, little side note here, my older children were, around 16 and 14 at the time, so I was almost done getting them through high school and all that. So to bring a new baby into the situation is a really crazy idea. So she's like, she starts crying, and she's like, "Oh my God, are you serious?" And she goes, "When we talked about it, you guys were the first person we thought of." And I was like, well, I have to tell you, when I told Donald she was pregnant, he said the exact same thing. He's like, we should adopt that baby. And he goes, well, she's like, well, do you think you guys want to? And I said, I don't know. We've never discussed anything like that before. I mean, this is a big responsibility. We were starting all over. You know, we pretty much, at this point, so many years had passed by, we pretty much had given up on that idea that we were going to be parents to a child, to another child, I should say, let alone a baby. So it's like, we're going away this weekend. I'll bring it up and we'll talk about it and I'll let you know. So my husband and I, we're going away for the weekend. We're in the car and I say, do you remember that conversation we had the other day? Which days have passed by. We've had 100 conversations since this first initial one. And I'm thinking, he's not going to know what I'm talking about. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, no, really, do you know what I'm talking about? He's like, yeah, about adopting the baby. And I'm like, yeah, where did that come from? He's like, I don't know. When you told me, that's the first thing I thought of. And I said, well, ironically enough, that's the first thing that I thought of when she told me her daughter was pregnant. And so we talked about it. And I told him what my sister-in-law had said. And we just talked about it all weekend long. And we just decided, you know what, we're going to do it. And we were really blessed. We were able to be at every doctor's appointment. And because of my niece's medical condition, she had to be completely put out for a C-section. And this caused some complications for the baby. And when they did the C-section, it was taking too long to get him out. And on top of that, all of the medications they gave to put her completely out during the procedure caused him some distress, and essentially he needed to be resuscitated when he was born. I was in the delivery room. I was blessed to be in the delivery room, and as a nurse, I knew I'd witnessed births before that this was taking way too long, and I'm feeling the minutes tick by that he has not begun to breathe. And I just knew how all of these pieces had come together for this child to come into our life. How is this possible that the story ends this way? He's not, he has to be alive and he has to live. I just know this. And I hear the nurses over there. I'm watching the time. I'm getting really anxious. They're saying, okay, come on, little baby, breathe, breathe. They're doing their resuscitative work on him. And finally, I just let out this scream, and I'm just like, Evan, this is your mama talking, and you need to breathe. And he took his very first breath, and at that point, I knew that everything was going to be okay. And when he saw me, he had the biggest, brightest, wide eyes, like his soul recognized my soul, and it was just so beautiful to know that I was going to be able to be his mama. And we have been so blessed to have this little boy in our life. He is just an amazing blessing to our whole entire family, and he has touched so many people's lives. And he has some big important work to do when he grows up. He is an amazing little healer and intuitive. So he's just been a joy to be around. So I just thought I would share that story with you about how the universe, even though you think you planted the seed and the seed is never going to grow, the universe will always surprise you. Blessings, love, and light. Bye.